Hello and welcome to another episode of Cooking on Caffeine. I'm Megan Lea, and today we're going to be making vegan and allergy-friendly cream cheese filling for danishes. Let's get started. Now the ingredients that we're going to be using today are really simple. So let's go over those as well as the equipment that we're going to be using.
So the ingredients here are whatever vegan yogurt is safe for you. You need some naturally fermented sauerkraut, not stuffed with vinegar. This is the natural stuff. And then you need either arrowroot or tapioca starch. This is tapioca here. And then this recipe here, I use 1, 2, 3. It is 1 small container of yogurt. And then we have 2 tablespoons of our sauerkraut. And then we have 3 teaspoons of our starch, so it's 3 teaspoons. And as far as equipment, I have a stovetop burner here, and then I have a small sauce pot to go on the top of that, a little pan, a heat-proof container, and an immersion blender.
The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to blend together all of our ingredients. To do that, I'm going to be using a heat-proof container, and I've got an immersion blender. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can use a regular blender and then pour everything into a heat-proof container when you're done. If you're going to be microwaving it, go ahead and use the microwave. Those instructions are on the blog post. But today I'm going to be using a stovetop and a pan because a lot of people have been asking me how to do that. So I want to demonstrate it for you guys. We're going to be putting our vegan yogurt into the container. And today I am using a sweetened vanilla bean yogurt, and that means I'm not going to need to sweeten it all at the end or add any vanilla to it, because I like my cream cheese to have a little bit of vanilla. We've got that. And I'm going to be adding, remember we're doing 1, 2, 3. So 1 container of vanilla yogurt, 2 tablespoons of sauerkraut. So there's 1, 2. It's just a lot easier to do it like that. Getting 1 and 2. And I'm going to blend this and then add in 3 teaspoons of my tapioca starch. We're going to be doing that 1/2 teaspoon at a time. Just leave that right there. And we're going to blend it. This is going to get loud. Now you want to blend this nice and smooth because the last thing you want in your Danish is a big chunk of sauerkraut. Now I'm going to add my first 1/2 teaspoon of tapioca starch. My next 1/2 teaspoon. So there's 1 of our 3 teaspoons. Getting cream cheese on my face. Okay, another 1/2 teaspoon. So that's 3. 4. So that's 2 teaspoons. 5 1/2 teaspoons. And 6 1/2 teaspoons. That's our 3 teaspoons of tapioca starch that we need. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on my stove to a medium heat here. And that's that. disconnect this guy. I'm gonna get every last bit off of there. You can see everything is blended nicely, and now I'm just going to add it to the pan. And if you've used my cream sauce, my base recipe, you're going to recognize what's going to happen here with the tapioca starch. Everything is going to start to thicken up and get very cheesy in nature. As soon as it reaches the boiling point, it activates that starch, and you'll see the magic happen. So I'm going to give that a quick stir. Once I see it start to steam a little bit, I'm going to turn down the heat. I'm going to clean up my spatter mess here. Turn down the heat, and then just continue to stir it until it thickens up. Now, if you're using a more watery yogurt, you might need to use a little bit more of your tapioca starch. And if you have a thicker Greek style yogurt, you may not need as much. So just play it by ear. If it ends up getting a little bit too thick for you, you can always add in just a little bit of plant milk to thin it out. Look here, you can see the tapioca starch is already starting to activate and thicken it up. And all of that sauerkraut smell has gone away, and now all I smell is the vanilla from the yogurt. It's really starting to get thick and very cheese-like. So I'm going to turn my heat down to low. Just continue stirring it with my spatula. It's going to start to pull away from the edges of the pan, and when that happens, it's done. Just keep stirring it. This is very similar to making vegan mozzarella. See how stretchy that's getting. It's almost there. Alright, and you can see now when I stir it, it starts to kind of ball up in the middle, and it doesn't immediately spread out when I scoop it. That is the perfect consistency that I'm looking for. Like I said, nice and stretchy and cheesy. So now that that is done, I'm going to turn off my stove, and there it is. I'm going to put it back into this container to cool. We want it to be room temperature or colder to put onto our danishes, because we want to preserve the lamination in the puff pastry. Lamination is due to the fat that is in it, and if you add hot cheese to that, it's going to melt that fat, and you're not going to have the same flaky layers in your puff pastry. So try to get all of that in there. This is enough, again, for 8 danishes, so 1 pack of the puff pastry. Very stretchy. And this is going to thicken up as it cools too. There we go. Now I'm going to put this into the refrigerator to chill while I work on the puff pastry. Okay, so there are quite a few vegan brands of puff pastry. This is one of them, Pepperidge Farm. I will go ahead and leave some other brands and links to them in the comments below. And if you need gluten-free, Char actually makes a puff pastry as well. So go ahead and look for it. It's usually in the freezer section. This is definitely in the freezer section. Let me go ahead and open it. And you're supposed to let it thaw until you can easily open it. And it says it takes about 40 minutes. This brand, at least, takes about 40 minutes. I'm going to open it up here on my baking sheet that I have lined with a silicone mat. You can also use parchment paper. Here we go. Open it up. It's not opening terribly easily, but that's okay. And I am going to cut this into 4. And let me grab my pizza cutter to do that. Be right back. Okay, so I've got my pizza cutter, and I'm just gonna do 1 cut down the middle, and another cut down the middle that way. Please use a pizza cutter or a fondant cutter. Do not use a knife if you are using a silicone mat, because these silicone mats, the Silpat style, have fiberglass inside. You do not want to cut that. Do not trim the edges of your mat, etc., etc. Use a pizza cutter. I'm going to spread these out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm not very good at making fancy danishes. I need a lot more practice, but I can do a very simple one. I've got a little bit of water here. You're going to use water to make the puff pastry stick to itself. So I'm just going to put a dab of water on each corner. Like so. It's gonna soak in and make the flour make a glue for itself, just like that. And now what we're gonna do is grab our cream cheese and put a dollop in the middle of each one, and I'm actually going to use blackberries and black cherry jam and drizzle them with balsamic vinegar. And then I've got some fresh basil here. I'm gonna do my fancy pants danishes for Thanksgiving. So let me go ahead and check on the cream cheese, and I will be right back. Okay, so my cream cheese has been chilling in the fridge, and you can see what it does when it cools. Nice and thick, and honestly a little bit gross looking, but it's gonna brown beautifully in the oven on our danishes. This is exactly what we want. I promise you guys it's magic. Try to get it all down there, get it all off the spatula. And what I'm going to do with my handy dandy little cookie scoop here is put 1 scoop in the middle of each Danish. And this is completely up to you how much you want to add. If you want extra cream cheese, then do it. If you're making an extra large Danish and you want to make sure you get plenty on there, then do it. This just helps me make sure I have enough for all 8 of the Danishes that I'm making from this pack of puff pastry. So there we go. 8 little scoops, and the link to that guy is on the blog post as well. I'll pop it in the comments below if you don't want to do a click through there. And now we are going to add our fruit filling if you choose. And you have a lot of options. I've got some jam. You can also use pie filling. You can use fresh fruit. And I am actually going to go with the jam and the fresh fruit. I'm gonna save this for a pie for tomorrow. A nice gluten-free strawberry pie for us to enjoy. Now I am going to open this guy up and I'm going to add a tiny little bit right in the middle of each Danish. And this has real fruit in it. It's super delicious. Oops, slid off a little bit. Try to keep it in the middle. And then I'm going to add a blackberry right in the middle of each one too. Standing straight up. Just like that. And now I'm going to use my water here to bring up the edges, or I'm sorry, the corners. I think my water may have evaporated, so let's do this again. I should have waited until right now. And we are going to glue those edges together. Like I said, there are a lot of really fancy ways that you can shape your Danishes. I am not a fancy Danish shaper as of yet. I need to look up some awesome ways to do it on YouTube. But this is the easiest way for me, and I wanted to make sure that I got it right on video for you guys. So now that all of the corners are wet, I'm going to just bring it up and pinch the corners like so. Okay, pinch. Pinch, pinch, pinch. Okay, and now that all of these are glued shut, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a glaze on them to help them brown up and crisp in the oven. And to do that, I'm going to be using maple syrup and water. You're going to see this is going to make it absolutely delicious. So just a smidgen of maple syrup, that's about a tablespoon. And I'm going to add in some water just to thin it out a little bit. And use your brush. I have a pastry brush behind me. It's a silicone one, but I don't really like how it works, so I'm just going to use this instead. The last one. And then to be even more extra, I've got some shimmering sanding sugar here. I'm just gonna apply while the glaze is wet. This is gonna add a little bit more crunch and a touch of sweetness. And then these danishes are ready to go into the oven according to the directions on your puff pastry. Mine says to put it in for 400 degrees for 15 minutes, so that's what I'm gonna do. How beautiful are those? See how gorgeous it is on the outside, which, I mean, that's puff pastry. That's not my recipe. Let's see if I can. Not make a huge mess, which I am. The cream cheese inside. Deliciousness.
You can find the full recipe on my blog at this address, and go ahead and stay tuned to the blog for the full recipe for the blackberry cherry balsamic basil awesomeness that you see here. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a really great Thanksgiving.